And I think we can just go ahead and jump into it now. So first, we're going to start off and introduce ourselves. Hi, my name is Jessie. I am a junior at Duke studying public policy and economics, minoring in English on the pre-law business track. Outside of being a tour guide, I'm also the president of our Model United Nations organization and a member of the pre-business organization Delta Sigma Pi.
Hi, my name is Evan. I am a sophomore from just outside Seattle, Washington, majoring in psychology and minoring in computational biology, probably on a pre-med track, but not really sure at this point. And outside of giving tours on campus, I'm really involved with DUU, our programming board, as well as Phi Delta Epsilon, the pre-med professional society, and I'm really involved with club volleyball too.
I'm Fabi. I'm from California. I'm a junior majoring in evolutionary anthropology and minoring in Spanish and chemistry on the pre-med track. Outside of tour guiding, I work with FEMS, which is a program that helps with STEM fields for young kids around the Triangle area. I'm also a Cardea Fellow, which is a pre-health fellowship here on campus. And then I'm also involved with the American Sign Language Club, which is really wonderful. And I also do research with the environmental school with some of our graduate students.
All right. And so first beginning with a few statements from our admissions office, Duke encourages persons with disabilities to participate in its programs and activities. If you would like to request accommodation services for an information session, please contact Mark Dudley and arrange these for a later date. And now moving on to a more serious statement from the admissions office and our admissions ambassadors.
As students at Duke, we want to take a moment to highlight and acknowledge that our world is going through an incredible amount of societal change as we speak. The Duke University Admissions Office Tour Guide Program stands in solidarity with the Black community on our campus and across the country as the fight for racial equality and justice continues. We condemn in the harshest of terms the racism that causes harm to many members of our community, and we believe that Black lives matter. We know that the Duke administration and many organizations on campus are working hard to support the Black community at Duke and our surrounding city of Durham and beyond.
Duke has many resources for current and prospective Black students with questions or concerns about the university's commitment to racial justice, including the Mary Lou Williams Center for Black Culture, which you can find online or on social media. The Mary Lou Williams Center strives to promote racial understanding, build community, and foster appreciation for and increase knowledge of Black people, Black history, Black culture, and the vast contributions of people of the African diaspora. It also serves as a place of community for many of our Black students. As tour guides, we are often the first individuals to welcome prospective students and visitors and guests to our campus. For that reason, we strive to provide a welcoming and comfortable atmosphere to ensure that everyone feels safe on our campus. If you have any questions or concerns about inclusivity or diversity, do not hesitate to ask us about our experiences.
All right, so I'm going to sort of kick things off now with the first stop of our tour. And so we're going to go over a little bit of Duke's history. And so Duke started as a private school called Brown's Schoolhouse in 1838. The name was changed to Trinity College later in the 1800s, and it moved to Durham, and construction of West Campus was mostly completed around the 1930s. And something that's notable is that the architect who designed most of West Campus, Duke's main campus, Julian Abel, was African-American, and he designed it 30 years before he could have attended the university. And today we have our main quad on campus named Abel Quad in his honor. And so the chapel on campus kind of serves as kind of the central point, both physically and geographically. And one kind of joke we like to make is that it's the tallest building on campus. It's just slightly taller than a lot of the athletic facilities. So like at Duke, it's like basketball is close to religion. And I'm not going to get too much into the history, though. I'm not a history major, and there's plenty of information on Duke's website if you want to learn more about our great past. But something that really separates Duke is the first year experience. I want to go ahead and do the slide. Yeah, so the first year experience at Duke is very unique, and there are so many great opportunities to get involved with, like the Focus program, which is a really great program that allows students to live in, that's a selective program you have to apply for, and it's 2 courses you take in your freshman year around a certain theme. A lot of my friends did the science and society focus, as well as one of visions of freedom. These often culminate in a trip near the end of the first semester, and it's a really great way to bond with some other people in your dorm. But one thing that's really great about being in a focus program is that your roommate also isn't in the same focus program, which allows you a great opportunity to get to know people outside of that group. And speaking of roommates, something that's all policy for all freshmen, form about some of your interests and habits as a person, such as what time do you wake up, like if you prefer to kind of have quiet when you study or if you'd rather listen to music, and they'll match you with someone. And that, like, the random roommate experience worked out really great for me because my roommate freshman year was an international student from India, and I really helped him like kind of acclimate to the US, and I learned a lot about his culture, and it was super great. We worked out really well, and maybe we didn't super become best friends after all, but it's a super great experience and getting to meet new people. And that's something I really enjoyed about Duke is the random roommate policy. And finally, also, something that's really important about freshman year is that since all freshmen live on the same campus, East Campus, it's a really great way to kind of build that community. And specifically, the first year dining location, Marketplace, which is also on East Campus, is pretty much only freshmen dine there since they all live there. And that's really great kind of the first few weeks of school if you're looking to meet new people, or you can always just kind of sit down at a table, introduce yourself, and you'll know that they're probably freshmen as well. And I have met some of my best friends from this day kind of just walking into Marketplace, not really knowing who I was going to sit with, and finding a new group of people to get to meet. And finally, one of my other favorite memories from freshman year and living on East Campus was the faculty in residence program, which is really unique. And at Duke, where all of the first year dorms have a faculty member live with them. And so I lived in Trinity Dorm, which is one of the largest by students, which means that we had one of the largest faculty in residence groups. So Professor Blackshear, who's one of the deans of students, and his wife and their 4 kids all lived in our residence hall. And that's just such a great resource to engage with. He's such a great guy to like tell stories, just have advice about classes, life at Duke in general. Every Sunday, he and his wife would have all students over for coffee and donuts and just kind of chatting, talking about life. And that's one of the really great hallmarks of the Duke experience is just being immersed in that kind of inclusive academic culture and getting to engage with some of your professors and administrators outside the classroom in a fun kind of way. And in addition to the coffee and donuts, I remember when one of his sons was turning 8, he had a Looney Tunes themed birthday party and sent out the email to the entire dorm. And I went because I thought it was going to be fun. I wasn't sure if anyone else did, but there were probably 30 of us there, college students, for this 8-year-old's birthday party. And it was so much fun. That's one of my favorite memories of freshman year. And then kind of transitioning on into the upperclassmen housing model. So there are kind of 3 different living styles at Duke. There is Greek and selective living groups, or SLGs, and living learning communities, and then independent. And each of these approximately make up about 1/3 of the student body. So there's not really any one style that dominates, and everyone can kind of find something that's right for them. So speaking about Greek life and selective living groups, rush for those does not happen until second semester. And selective living groups are kind of just groups of students that live together, and some are themed around, some have a theme such as LGBT or languages or just other groups of friends. And then some are just kind of social and just really are a great way to find kind of your sub-community inside of a larger community that's Duke. And for both of these types of organizations, rush doesn't happen until second semester, which gives students plenty of time to adjust to the college life, make plenty of friends, and see kind of if rushing might be right for them to best help them decide. And then independent, and the kind of a misconception I had when I heard that there was a style called independent is just that kind of, you just kind of like, it's like freshman year again, where you're just completely random, but it's definitely not like that. You can choose a block of up to 6 people of your friends to room with and prefer which dorms you want to live in. And then even within independent housing, there's still houses on West Campus that you kind of up to 50 to 100 students that you stay in over your 3 years at Duke and kind of form communities inside that way. And yeah, it's just really important to note that not any one style of housing dominates, and there's certainly all sorts of cross like friendships, and people have groups of friends that are like affiliated with certain groups and not, and no really one style dominates. So however you kind of want that to look for you, you totally can. All right.
All right, so now we'll talk about dining, which is one of my favorite things at Duke, and for very good reasons because we have an amazing dining program. Like Evan was saying, Duke really, really focuses on creating a good like community for first years, and it really does so successfully, which I'm really grateful for. And part of that is actually dining. So first years have the freshman dining hall, like Evan mentioned, which is marketplace on East Campus, which is the more traditional buffet style dining hall, which you might think of when you're thinking of a college dining hall. It has different booths that change which food they offer each day, which helps a lot so you don't have to get tired of eating at the same place. Um, and for this, freshmen get both food swipes and food points, which I'll explain the food points later. But essentially, a food swipe is equivalent to an entrance or a meal at Marketplace. So each first year will have one breakfast swipe and one dinner swipe during the week, and then one swipe for brunch and one swipe for dinner over the weekend, which one of my favorite things on Marketplace was definitely brunch. It's amazing. However, you may have noticed I did not mention a lunch swipe. That's because freshmen have food points also, which they can use to buy lunch anywhere on campus. So essentially, one food point is equal to $1. So if I want to buy a meal that is $5, I will use 5 food points. And you can just use your ID card and swipe it or tap it. It's amazing. So it works really easily. And because Marketplace is intended mostly for first years, all upperclassmen only have food points and not swipes. And so these food points can be used anywhere on campus to buy food or drinks like coffee or smoothies at any of our restaurants or even our convenience stores, which we have one on East Campus for the first years, which is really awesome. I used to go there if I needed to get any snacks, but we also have it on West Campus and in our apartments. And they can also be used at our graduate schools, which I really love because each of our graduate schools have different cafes that are really awesome. And you can even use your food points at our museum for brunch or dinner. And this is actually something that my friends and I did pretty often. So we'd go grab brunch and then we'd walk around the museum. And it was kind of a nice way to feel like we were off campus without actually leaving. So it was something that we could really easily do in the mornings and then get back to studying or hanging out or whatever we wanted to do. However, most of our students will buy food at this beautiful building on your screen, which is the Broadhead Center. If you move to the next slide, we can actually take a peek into what it looks like inside. So the Broadhead Center has 14 different eateries, which is like the one that you see on the screen. It's kind of like a fancier food court if you start thinking about it. You can grab anything from sushi to barbecue, and it's all on food points. One of my favorite places here is actually the steakhouse upstairs because my friends and I used to go and dress up and have a nice dinner to celebrate or just take like a nice break between midterms. And because it's all on food points, you don't have to feel guilty or anything. And it's just kind of a wonderful little way to hang out and have some food. However, I think my favorite part of the Broadhead Center is the kitchen on the second floor, which we can see on the next slide. We actually have different cooking courses here, which we can actually see on the slide right now. This is one of our 5-week cooking courses, which are open to all students at no cost. I haven't gotten to the chance to do it, but my roommate took a class here last year, and I had so many pictures from her of amazing looking food on my phone that taking a class here is definitely on my bucket list before I graduate from Duke. It's just something that I've heard really, really good things about. And they also have different celebrity chefs come and cook. And the same area that's on the screen will actually be used for different pop-up restaurants, which is cool because each month you can try something new that isn't regularly offered on campus. So it's really making sure that you try whatever you want to try, and then you also just never get tired of the food because it's so excellent. There's so many options. And then right outside the Broadhead Center is actually the Student Wellness Center, which we can see on the next slide. This building has pretty much anything that a student might need, which is really convenient since it's really at the heart of campus, since it's near dining like we saw, and it's near different activity centers. Inside here, we have student health, which you can go to at any time to see a doctor or a nurse, or even get a flu shot. I like to go regularly every year and get a flu shot. It's really easy to set up an appointment. We also have nutritionists, which are available to all students for free. We have a dentist in here. We also offer physical therapy. And then the Wellness Center also has a really important part of campus, which is CAPS, which is Counseling and Psychological Services, which offer help to any student that might need it. But it's also just a really cool building because it has wonderful views. You can see the chapel from there, and it's really peaceful. You can go and color in there or play the piano. There's a piano pretty much in every building around campus, which is awesome. But then my favorite part of the building is actually right outside, and it's one of the things that made me fall in love with Duke, and that's the meditation garden. They have these awesome egg chairs that I may or may not have fallen asleep in when I was a prospective student and I was touring. And I still go there when I need to relax. So I really love it. It has a view of the Duke Forest, and it's just really relaxing. And there's also different programs in this building throughout the day, every day. So there's yoga, there's drum circles, there's pottery, I think there's knitting circles and meditation, and I think there's even glass blowing. So it's really awesome because it really, you can fit it into your schedule whenever you want, and there's always something happening that you can use as the way to de-stress and unwind. And I think that's really wonderful because that way you always have somewhere you can go if you need to take a break. And I think next I'll pass it over to Jesse, or it might be Evan, we'll see, to talk a little bit about our activities.
Jesse, you're muted.
All right. Yeah, I got it. My time to shine. Sorry, Zoom difficulties. Still not used to Zoom University. All right. So here you see a picture of our student quad. Duke has a super lively student body, a super strong community. I'm honestly I've been at home for the past year or so, but I'm so homesick just looking at a picture here. Just from anecdotes, there were times that I went and got food at the Panda Express that you see sort of in the right corner there. As I walked out, I happened to run into one of my friends sitting at one of these green tables. I sat down with him. Two other friends just happened to pass by at the same time. We all ended up just chilling out there for the next 3 hours, catching up, studying together. And then we all decided to go get dinner at the common steakhouse that Fabi mentioned earlier. So it's all these small little occurrences of just passing by one another, always having a friendly face to smile to, wave to, is something that really makes our Duke student body, our Blue Devil community, super special. And so moving on, I'm going to be talking about more of the other ways that students get involved. So one of these includes our clubs and student activities. So here you see a picture of our Duke University Marching Band, acronym DUM. And they are just one of the many different clubs and activities that you can join as a student at Duke. We have more than 600 clubs and organizations on campus, so you very much will be able to find something that you enjoy. We had a attendee previously ask about a journaling club. We most definitely have a journaling club. And in the case that you don't find something that you're super passionate about already, you can just go ahead and start up your own club super easily, especially with our launch program, which is where our university will really help you to make sure that the club you want to make a reality is able to take off. One of my fellow tour guides, his name was Shrey, he wanted to come here and he said that there was a robotics club that he was super passionate about that wasn't quite being met currently at Duke. So in his freshman year, he was able to start up a new club all on his own. And those are just one of the examples of ways you can really get involved. And something that my first year advisory counselor told me, and something that I sort of stick by in my own time at Duke, is to find 3 activities. 1, something for professional development. 2, something you enjoy. And 3, something new for you to be involved in. It's not a rule that you have to live by, but I found that it has led me well. In addition to our clubs, we also have a ton of identity groups and identity centers at Duke. We say that Duke is our home away from home. Sometimes, especially even in your own house, I know I need my space away from my sister, my dad, mom, dogs. And we have the same thing at Duke, and just having that identity center where you can really feel that extra sense of security and being surrounded by people who are similar to you. In the picture that we show here, we have a parade led by the Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity. Some other identity groups that we have include the Center for Multicultural Affairs, the Mary Lou Williams Center for Black Culture, and the Women's Center, all just extra places that we have to make sure the Duke students feel secure, feel comfortable in their home away from home. Okay, and here we have a picture of our Cameron Crazies, and I'm going to be going a little bit into athletics. So I know I said before that we weren't going to be using chat box, but here I'm going to open it up again. Do any of you guys know what Duke's most successful athletics group is? Throw it in the chat if you know. Okay, so I see a lot of basketball. You guys are all wrong. Unfortunately, you're all rejected from Duke University now, so you can log off. Don't need to go any further. It's actually our women's golf, but our men's basketball is okay. And going more into that, we have a ton of different ways that you can get involved in athletics on various different levels. So from level of least commitment to highest commitment, we have intramural, where you can just get together with a group of your friends, play sports against one another, super low commitment, and it's just within the Duke students themselves. On the next level, we have our club teams, where you compete against other schools around, such as UNC and other North Carolina schools. And finally, we have our varsity level, which is the highest level and the highest commitment. Duke is a Division I ACC school with 27 teams, and we have won 16 national championships and 130 ACC championships. So super successful. You guys mentioned basketball a lot in the chat. So our basketball team is so popular that we have a whole tradition called tenting. And that is to get into our Duke versus UNC game, which is the big ticket rivalry that we have every year. In my freshman year, where we had people like Zion Williamson and that whole crew, our tickets were selling they were more expensive than tickets for the Super Bowl. And if you want to get into a sports event like that, especially because Duke students do not have to pay to get into any sporting events, they're all free for us. You have to literally sleep in a tent for several months, prove your commitment to Duke basketball in order to get into that event and to have that chance. And that's something that I think really makes Duke special, is even though we are an elite academic university, we have that sense of athletics to really bring us together. I didn't know that Duke had a good basketball team until after I got in, and I still don't know what the different type of fouls or anything are, but I know who to cheer for when the ball goes in on the side of our court, and that's something that I've been able to scream and cheer about with other people in the common room, and that's something that really ties together our Blue Devil community, and I think really makes Duke super special. Furthermore than just the sports, we also have free access to 2 gyms, the Wilson and Brody gym. I like doing the rock climbing lessons there and Pilates lessons. So there are a ton of ways to stay fit and active. And in the case you're more on the artsy side, Duke is also super invested in supporting the arts on campus. There are opportunities to get involved both with art classes like painting, dance, etc., and extracurricular activities like a cappella groups and theater organizations. I really like going to the Arts Annex. It offers free supplies and workshops for students in everything from painting to ceramics to screen printing. Whenever I'm feeling stressed, I go there and I do a Bob Ross tutorial. I actually have one of my paintings here. I'm not an art student, so don't judge it, but that's one of the ways that I'm able to unwind, de-stress just through art. We also have the Rubenstein Art Center, which opened in spring 2018, has a studio theater, 3D printers, and a ton of other ways to get involved. And I've been talking for a long time. This is the final bit for me. We also would like to talk a bit upon safety. So this is something big whenever you're going to a brand new place, far from home, parents aren't around. Duke makes sure to its utmost ability that every student feels safe and secure in our time at Duke. My last year when we were around Christmas season, my sister got me pepper spray. I told her that I couldn't bring it with me back to Duke because TSA wouldn't allow it, and also that I just wouldn't need it because I've never felt unsafe in my time at Duke. Not only do we have some actual official safety resources such as the blue light system that is available almost anywhere you are on campus. You press the button if you're not feeling super secure, and some Duke personnel will be there within minutes. We have our own Duke University Police Department, and we also have the Duke van system, which is late at night when the bus system is no longer running. We will have our own vans to come pick you up and take you to whatever place you would like and your residence to make sure that you get home safely. Also, Duke students just look after one another. If I'm walking in some direction late at night, it may just be me after I was finished studying. There will be some other group of girls like maybe nearby that will be like, hey, let's go walk back together. Duke looks out for us and Duke students look out for each other. All right, and passing it on to Bobby.
All right, so now we're going to talk about research. So Duke students, actually about 50% of Duke students are involved in research in some way. And I like to think that's because it's just incredibly accessible. Duke really makes it easy for students to reach out to faculty. And we also just get to work in different parts of Duke, so not just undergraduate college, but we can also work with the graduate schools as well as Duke Health, since the Duke Hospital is right on campus. And one thing we'll talk about in a little bit is you can really easily reach out to professors, and there's different resources that Duke offers to encourage you to do that. And that's one of the easiest ways to get involved with research. I have one of my best friends from my freshman year. She didn't know this professor, but thought her research was super interesting. So she reached out to her, they got coffee, and now she's even gone with her to San Diego to present at a research fair to present their research in psychology, which is really cool. And we have research in pretty much any area that you might think of, not just, I think we might be having a problem with the slides, but that's okay.
I'll get it back up.
But we have research in STEM, which you might usually traditionally think of. I'm involved with toxicology research at the Environmental School of Science, or Environmental Science School, which is the Nicholas School. But I have one of my close friends, Deb, she's involved with art history research, which is super awesome. I would have never even thought about that until I got to Duke. So she gets to do some really cool work with the Museum of Art that's on here, that's called the Nasher, that's on campus. And you can really just get involved with anything, and it's really easy. We have a program called Vast Connections, which really kind of represents Duke research and what it's like, which its entire point is to be really interdisciplinary. So Vast Connections will have different groups, different research groups with people from different areas. So you might be working on a research project that you might initially think is STEM-based, but you will have somebody from the philosophy department to talk about ethics, or you'll have somebody from the arts that might talk about, oh, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to distribute this information? So it's really trying to be well-rounded and include every student that wants to be involved with research. And that's why we have such a high involvement of students in our research. And as you can tell, I'm doing environmental science research. It doesn't really have to do with my major. My major is in primates and bones, but I was just really interested in that. And I wanted to do something that wasn't in the field that I was studying. And so I reached out to somebody in the department and got a job studying fish, which has been super cool. Kind of gross. It smells bad pretty much all the time, but it's been a really cool way to spend some of my days. And actually on the screen right now, if you can see it, that's some of our field work. So a lot of majors will have field work like with research. So we'll have here are turtles, but you can also work at the Lemur Center with the lemurs, which is really interesting. If you go to the next slide, we can see some just general, like looking at different things. So we'll have different presentation dates. And at the end of the year, you'll always see all the seniors presenting their thesis reports, which is really cool because you can go and just learn about somebody's major, what kind of research they were involved in. But it's really just an easy thing that you can get involved with. And it really makes your experience that much richer because you can explore anything that you're interested in. And then next we'll talk about Pratt School, which is the Pratt School of Engineering. You might have noticed on our names there's a little T next to most of us. That stands for Trinity. So we were actually all Trinity students, but I will talk about a little bit about the engineering school, which I have a lot of friends in there that are doing some amazing research as well and just really enjoy it. Here we can see one of the buildings actually for the Pratt School, which actually has 5 different majors, which are biomedical engineering, civil engineering, environmental engineering, electrical and computer science, and then mechanical engineering. So there's really quite a few things that you can explore. And even within the Pratt School, there's different certificates that you can complete. So I have a friend who is really interested in environmental engineering, but wanted to focus on energy. So she's also doing a certificate in different energy sources. So that's something that she can explore further that she may have not gotten just from her regular classes. So that's really cool. And there's also, if you go to the next slide, a number of just incredible opportunities for different students. We have a bunch of things that have been 3D printed. So there's 3D printers offered for anyone on campus, but the Pratt School does have the CoLab studio, which is this really cool building where you can just There's 3D printers. There's, I want to say they're computer numeric control machines. Not fully sure what they do, but I've heard they're pretty interesting, and you usually don't have access to that at a university as an undergraduate. So it's pretty cool that you get to just walk in and use them whenever you want. And they also have laser cutters and different things. So it's really a space to be creative. You can use it for schoolwork, or you can even just go and use it because you want to do something fun with some of your friends. So it's really, really cool. We also have different events for Pratt students specifically so that they can get to know each other, since it's a bit of a smaller college, although there is no separation between us. I have friends in Pratt, and we all get to mingle because of housing and everything else. But they do have different social events so they can meet each other. There's the e-ball, which everyone tries to go to every year. You have to have an invite from a Pratt student to get in, but it's this amazing dance that everyone just wants to go to. So we have that once a year. And if we go to the next slide, I'll actually tell you about one of the coolest experiences I think I'm very jealous of for Pratt students. And this is the first year design experience. So each freshman does have to complete this experience, which essentially assigns them a project with a contractor or a different person that needs it. So a business, or it could be like a zoo, and they're basically told, we need you to build something to help us with whatever problem. And they're given an endless amount of resources. They get to work with professors and different people in the field to create different things that might help fix the problem they were given. So here we have somebody modeling one of the arms that they created to help with the nursing schools. So this actually helps with IV placement, which is really important. They need to learn that obviously in nursing school. And this is one of the projects that they did so that they could better reuse these arms rather than having to restart or use something different. So they modeled different skin textures so that it would close like skin, which is super cool. But there's also projects like, I have a close friend who modeled this automatic feeder for the lemurs at the Lemur Center. There was one where it was like a tracker for different coral reefs to see, like to go underwater and check how much the coral reefs have changed in a year. So you really have the opportunity to work with so many different wonderful parts of the community and even beyond that. And this is just a really cool experience. Everyone walks away having done some hands-on work, which I think kind of makes our engineering school a little bit different because you're actually getting experience and not just being in a classroom learning about it. And then I think next we'll talk about Trinity, actually, if Evan will help us out with that.
Yeah, so I'm going to go, after we've now talked about Pratt and engineering, I'm going to kind of shift gears back to talking about Trinity and then our libraries at Duke. So like I said, I'm a psychology major with a computational biology minor, and at Duke there are 53 majors to choose from, and almost all of those departments offer minors as well. And then we also have a really fun program at Duke someone asked about in the chat, which are certificates. And the person asked if they were like a minor, and it's kind of similar in that it's going to be probably about 5 or 6 courses to complete them, just like a minor would be, but they're in very interdisciplinary topics. So I know there is a certificate in child policy, in aerospace engineering, which a lot of students in Pratt will also get. There is one in decision sciences, and there's just a lot of great interdisciplinary fields that tie together classes from different departments and STEM and liberal arts and humanities and allow you to kind of explore maybe like familiar topics in a different way and kind of allow for another just a way for you to explore your interest maybe in a more interdisciplinary way that isn't necessarily a major. And kind of speaking of that, majors, minors, and certificates, plenty of Duke students double major and a minor, major, minor, certificate. And even if you complete more of the requirements for only one thing, you're only allowed to declare up to 3 things. It's pretty common if you're a pre-med student, you might end up with a minor in chemistry or biology, but if other students have studied other things, they may not choose to formally declare that. But it's just in general, there are so many classes to choose from every semester and so many different ways to design your major. And if those 53 aren't enough for you, you can do an IDM, interdepartmental major, between 2 different departments. Some of the most common ones of those I know of are in math and statistics or computer science and statistics for data science, or computer science and linguistics as an interdepartmental major. And then there's also Program 2, where you can completely design your own major and just kind of select a series of courses in a certain number above like 200 or 300 level in certain departments and kind of submit an application, kind of just explaining how that would best suit your academic and professional goals. And whatever you want to study, Duke has a way to make it work for you. And then kind of going into our equivalent of general education requirements, those are Trinity requirements. We call them TRECs. And that's kind of 5 areas of knowledge you need to complete. So that's things like arts, literature, performance, natural sciences, civilizations, as well as modes of inquiry. So that's things like ethical inquiry, cross-cultural inquiry, and foreign language and writing. Duke does have a foreign language requirement. You either need to take 3 classes in a language or complete just a 300 level, as well as beyond your first year Writing 101 class, which all first year students take. You need to take 2 more classes involved in writing, but it's very easy to make those work with whatever program you're studying for, and I don't really know of anyone who's had a difficulty trying to complete all of their Trinity requirements. Like, for example, when I say there's civilizations, that's a lot of history classes, but it's also symbolic logic in the philosophy department. So if you're into math and CS and P implies Q kind of stuff, that's a great way to fulfill that requirement. And basically, however you want to do something, and if you just talk to your advisors and kind of professors, that's a great way to do it. So speaking about professors, Duke makes it really easy to build great relationships through office hours, which all professors hold weekly, as well as many TAs for classes, which is a great way to stop in, ask questions about the homework. There's been some math classes where I just preferred to kind of solve a lot of the homework problems in a professor's office hours if they aren't busy. Just a great way to get to know professors outside the classroom and kind of help them put that name to your face. As well, and even and this year with everything virtually, I've actually been attending office hours more often just because it's as easy as clicking on a Zoom link, and it's a really great way to stay connected to professors even when we might all be virtually, and a great way to get to know them outside of class, ask questions about stuff, or just chat and get to know them kind of outside of the classroom about life. And a program we have is called Flunch, where you can kind of carry that conversation into a more formal lunch setting, and Duke will pay for it for you. It is on Duke's dime. You just have to fill out a form with the faculty member and schedule it, and then you just get to have lunch with them. And you can bring your friends too. It's a little less awkward that way, but I actually flunched my cognitive psychology professor my very first fall semester because I just wasn't really sure what I was doing or majoring in. And after talking to her about a lot of my interests, then I can't say there's one thing that made me a psych major, but that might be it, getting to know her this year. And she connected me with another professor who I'm currently doing research with about eating disorders and weight stigma, which is really, that's the research I do, which I think is really interesting. And I made all of those kind of connections, and I'm kind of starting to build my network in the major, all from just kind of doing that flunch. And there's a virtual program that's similar that's happening during kind of the COVID times, and I'm not sure the specifics of that, but definitely check out the website if you're interested. And finally, and then someone also asked in the questions about whether classes are lecture hall based or more kind of closer, and the answer is it really depends. So the number kind of statistic for that is that we have an 8-to-1 is kind of the student to faculty ratio, and you might be in some super large lecture hall classes. I believe computer science 201, data structures and algorithms is our largest class with over 250 students in a large lecture hall. And then I took my Writing 101 class. Those are all capped at 12 students. And there are plenty of other seminar classes capped at 15 or 18 students, which allow you to really literally sit in a circle in person, or if it's virtual, still kind of build that close relationship with your professors and get to know each other really individually. And you are required to take kind of 2 of those small seminar or group learning experiences throughout your time at Duke. But once again, it's not like you have to work to fit those in, just kind of naturally in the departments and classes you want to study, those will kind of all fall in. And then, finally, switching back and forth between Trinity and Pratt is super easy. I almost considered doing that my freshman year as well, just because I wasn't sure if I wanted to go into engineering. And it's a little easier to go from Pratt to Trinity, but either way, you just basically have to fill out a form, talk to a dean about kind of your interests, why that school would better serve you, and maybe why you realized you want to switch. And then just, switch in and allow them to help you build your schedule. And it's pretty easy. All right, and then I'm also going to talk about libraries at the stop. So Duke has kind of 2 main undergraduate libraries. There is 3, There's Perkins and Bostock on West Campus, which are connected, as well as Lilly Library on East Campus, which is kind of the first year library where all students in their first year residence hall are assigned a librarian who you can go if you have any questions about research, since a lot of classes in college are kind of more research and readings based, which students may not be used to in high school. I certainly wasn't, as well as your Writing 101 class is going to have an assigned librarian to them. And my Writing 101 class was all about kind of cultural anthropology and agriculture, which I thought was really really interesting, but subjects I had no experience doing research in. And I kind of wanted a lot of help kind of reading these like really qualitative interviews and kind of that sort of analysis that I never done before. So I scheduled an appointment with that librarian. She showed me how to navigate all of Duke's online library resources, as well as kind of the in-person reading room, where if there's like archive materials you want to request and learn more about, because I was doing a research project kind of on the history of Duke's campus farm, and they had plenty of materials from dating all the way back to the beginning of the century about Duke's farm and the gardens and its influence on campus. And all I had to do was just kind of send out an initial email, hey, I'm interested in this. And I think it was maybe 3 hours later, I got back an email with like multiple paragraphs of all of these links, like set up this time to meet and check out all of these various resources. So if there's something you're interested in studying, whether for a class, a research project, or just kind of for your own interest, the librarians are super fantastic resources who that is literally their job to help you find all of that information and just make it presentable and really interesting. And so Duke's library system is open 24 hours during the week, and then they close at midnight on Friday and Saturday and open at like 9 on the weekends. And then they also stay open during finals week 24/7 to allow students just to spend the most time there as they possibly can. And right now, kind of with COVID, the libraries are open, but you do have to make a reservation. But that's super simple. You just go online, make a reservation, and show up and show your ID. And then, yeah, so, and then also kind of some more resources in the library are the Link and the Edge, which are great computer labs and great places where you can reserve study rooms. If you have any sort of group project in a class, it's really easy to go online, make a room reservation and show up. They have really great whiteboards. Like I remember like my freshman year when I like reserved a room and was like writing on the whiteboard of it, like that just, I was, wow, like I never would have done this in high school. That made me feel like such a college student. And then also another place I visited a lot in the library is the OIT, Office of Information Technology desk. My laptop had a lot of problems freshman year, and I was worried, oh no, if I like send it into Apple, am I going to be able to do school? But I didn't have to do that. I just went to the OIT and they gave me a super easy loaner computer and a charger and everything, and I was completely set for the entire week, didn't really have to worry about anything. And they also offer software at a lot of discounts. So like a lot of the Adobe suite, and then ChemDraw, which is really great for pretty much any STEM major, and as well as the entire Windows Office suite. So I've never really had to pay for that much software here at Duke. It's all available for free. You just have to log in with your NetID and email. And yeah, there are plenty of resources. And I've just, yeah, like my freshman year, I spent so many late nights in Perkins, just like hanging out with friends, getting work done. And that's one of my favorite parts about Duke. All right, and then I'm going to pass it back to Jesse for kind of our last stop about study away and advising.
All right, thanks, Evan. So now I'm going to be going into study abroad and advising, like you said. So we have over 50% of Duke students studying abroad, and there's sort of two main ways that you go about doing it, that being the Duke In and Duke Approved programs. Duke In programs are taught by Duke faculty. For example, one of my friends did Duke in Geneva. He's actually in the Malta UN club with me, so it's really cool that he got to go to Geneva, sort of the home of the United Nations. He took classes on political science there over the summer, and it was a really great experience. He had really great reviews about it coming back. He always, after that, he would always sort of brag about how cultured he was because of how he went there. But it's a really great way to sort of have a change in your experience for studying then, and a lot of students do take up that opportunity. Duke approved programs are taught by other universities faculty, but approved by Duke for transfer credits. And you can also go out of your way if you would like to, you find some program that you really enjoy that is currently not on the Duke In or Duke approved list. All you have to do is submit that request to our Duke program of faculty, and more likely than not, as long as you can show that their syllabus matches with the requirements of some sort of Duke class, you will be able to get those transfer credits and have your great abroad experience. Some other ways of getting that international touch that may not be from a traditional study abroad type of class is through our Duke Engage program, which is really unique to Duke. Duke Engage is an 8 to 10 week summer program that sends students all over the country and all over the globe to work on civic engagement projects. And something really cool about it is that it's all expenses funded, and the primary benefactor of the program is Melinda French Gates, who is a 2-time Duke alumna. Yes, Gates as in the Bill Gates. And those are some really cool things that we have. You see a picture here of a Duke Engage project. I think this one is in India. I was set to do Duke Engage in Guatemala over this summer. Sadly, because of COVID, it wasn't able to pan out. But I think I really came to Duke. Duke Engage was one of the big draws for me. So I might apply again. Duke Engage is offered to freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. And I would be really excited to be able to take upon this opportunity again. The Duke Engage in Guatemala was a grassroots consulting opportunity. And it's also really cool because I'm a public policy major. And as part of our major requirements for graduation, we have to fulfill an internship that applies some of the things we've learned in our classes. And Duke Engage can actually fulfill that requirement for me. And finally, moving on to advising, we have a ton of different resources set up for students to feel supported in their time in their academic pursuit and professional pursuit here at Duke. One of the first ones that you'll start with is just our college advisors. This is for in your first year and before you declare your major. My advisor was Chris Kennedy. He was a super cool guy. He was working in English and athletics, which is a really cool sort of intercrossing. They did their best to match me with someone that had similar interests, and being that I'm an English minor, it was really helpful. There was a time that I was having a breakdown, sort of being like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm actually pre-med. I don't actually enjoy doing orgo. So then I had a breakdown at like midnight. I called him and he picked up and he was like, okay, like, it's all right. I don't want to wake up my wife, so just give me a minute. And he like left the room. He said, all right, like, Jesse, let's talk through this. And he spent like an hour helping me go through my schedule and rearrange what classes I was going to take and figure out what new things I could do to really figure out what I wanted from my time at Duke. And he was one of the really great resources that then allowed me to declare my current majors now of public policy and economics, minoring in English. And after you declare your majors, you get your major advisor, specifically within one of your major studies. You can even have 2 across the board if you request it. And there are some additional resources additional to those one-on-one advising, such as our Career Center, our Academic Resource Center, and our Academic Advising Center. For me, I definitely had to take advantage of these because throughout high school, I kind of coasted a bit. It wasn't too bad. But when I got to Duke, it was a different change in pace for the classes, and I was struggling a bit, and I was diagnosed with ADHD. So I had to figure out how best to study with this new environment, with knowing that I had this condition. And I was able to go to the Academic Resource Center, the Academic Advising Center, and they sat down and helped me plan out a whole study schedule to really help figure out the way that is best for me to do well in my classes. And these resources and career centers do pretty well, considering the fact that for all the pre-med people in here, we have an 85% acceptance rate to med school, veterinarian school, and dental school, which is over double the national average. And for pre-law students like me, we have a 98% acceptance to law school. Beyond these official resources that we also have just our really great alumni network that we have. For example, I'm in the Winter Breakaway project right now, so I actually am emailing my mentor today that I was assigned. He was a past Duke alum, also a working lawyer now and working in consulting. Those are both the areas that I want to go into in the future. So it's a really great connection. And I mentioned before how athletics was something that weirdly ties us. So whenever I start my conversations with alums that I reach out to, I always have some sort of icebreaker being like, did you watch the basketball game last night? And alums are always super open to helping out a fellow Blue Devil. So it's something that has always connected us and continues to connect us. And we're going to sort of go into some of the reasons why, especially for that, by closing up with our why Dukes and talking about why we chose Duke and why we continue to love Duke. So I'm going to kick us off by normally this is where we would have our sort of end of the tour. We would be in front of the Duke Chapel. It would be really pretty. It would be really sentimental about us saying like what brought us here to our Duke journeys. But unfortunately, we can't do that. We just have a pretty picture here for you. So I'm going to start us off. For my why Duke, I was considering 3 main factors, that being location, exploration, and community. On a sort of superficial level, I wanted to experience the seasons. So I got to see snowfall for the first time at Duke. I built a Zion Williamson snowman, and he took a picture with it, so it was really cool. And then on the next level of exploration, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do when I came into Duke. So I wanted to be somewhere where I could explore my interests and feel supported in doing that. And that's something that I definitely have seen fulfilled, especially from Duke being a liberal arts institution and having professors that would like go on walks with their dogs with me around East Campus while talking about the classes that I enjoy, the possible future career paths. And finally, just the community. We're all really obnoxious about wearing all our Duke gear, and that's just because that's how much we love the school, and it's something that really brings us together. We always help one another, support one another, and that's something that really makes me love being a part of the Blue Devil family.
Yeah, I can go next. So the way I kind of answer this one is people ask me that a lot, like at home, at here, like coming from literally the opposite corner of the country, just outside Seattle. And I went to a really small high school. There were 60 people in my graduating class, and I'm the first person in 12 years to come to Duke. And so what really, and so like I said, I went to a really small high school, and that was really great because it allowed me to make a lot of really close relationships, both with pretty much everyone else in my class. Like we got to know each other really well, and like you wouldn't, and like everyone you saw you knew. And then as well with my teachers and getting to kind of really build those close academic relationships. And then I really liked how the student body would all come together, like the entire school would like go to basketball games since like you were either like on the team or like you went. And I really liked that. But then I was kind of wishing for, and I was looking forward to college, going to like a larger school with like more opportunities, particularly, you know, for research and then for just kind of like global opportunities. And that's why I kind of landed on Duke, because to me, it's kind of the perfect size in that sense, in that like there's still so many people I see every day that like I still like get to meet, and you get to meet new people every day. Like there, even like when you get to like junior and senior year, like there are just so many like unfamiliar faces on campus to meet, but at the same time, there are so many familiar faces on campus, especially now that like classes are online and I can get it, like I see like the list of participants in the Zoom room, and like I recognize so many of those names. And especially once you kind of get into your major and you start to notice like the students in your other major more, like now that there's a few people that I've taken like every psych class with for kind of the past few semesters, and we get to know each other really well. So you still get to make those such great relationships, and like with other students as well as with professors, and kind of start kind of like building your network of like your support system of like professors in the areas you're interested in for just kind of whatever, and then like as well with alumni. And then, of course, like I said, the entire school does still go to basketball games, and it's a really fun way to just be a part of that culture. And just that's what I love about Duke, is every single student here is passionate about something, whether that's arts, athletics, or whatever, inside the classroom, outside the classroom. And Duke is so great at providing you with the resources to do whatever that is, whether it's connecting you with people here or just allowing you to kind of start for that yourself. So I could not imagine going anywhere else, and I am so glad I go to Duke.
I've kind of got a combination of reasons, as like with Jesse's and Evan's. I'm also from the West Coast, so everyone always asks me like, why would you go to the West Coast, or would you go to North Carolina? And honestly, I mean, if we're thinking about location, the weather is perfect. You get seasons, which is really cool, but it's still like pretty temperate, so it's pretty nice. But in reality, it's really about the people for me. When I was visiting Duke as a prospective student, everyone, like Jesse said, was wearing gear, and anybody that you walked up to was just like so nice and like outgoing and just like willing to talk to you about how much they love Duke. And I don't know, I think you can ask any student like why they chose Duke, and they are so willing to go on forever. Like if you gave us the time, we would go on for 10 minutes each talking about why we love Duke, which I didn't see at every other college. So I thought that was like a really a good drawing point for me. And then just the sheer amount of opportunities that we have. I always say that you could walk around campus with your eyes closed and you would trip over every opportunity at like every 3 feet, because you really can get involved with anything, and like everyone takes advantage of different things. So it's just really cool. It feels like you're honestly very supported, and they really want to see you thrive. It wasn't so much of like a competitive mindset. It's like, we really want you to get involved with this research or with this class and explore what you're actually interested in, which is really important for me because I wanted to actually like understand what I wanted to do and what I wanted to study and like find a passion, and Duke really makes it easy to do that. So that's why I've loved Duke and why I chose it.
All right, and so that brings us to the end of our sort of official part of the tour. We aren't holding you hostage. You are in your own homes with your own computers. Feel free to press the little red button and leave if you have something to attend to. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and answer some questions from the Q&A, and we are going to put a hard stop on time at 9:15. So sort of first, heading off, Bobby, Evan, do you guys see any interesting questions you want to start off with?
Yeah, there's been a few about kind of the freshman orientation experience and pre-orientation programs, and I was going to go ahead and speak to those because, so I did do a pre-orientation program. I did Project Build my freshman year, where I came a week early, and then and then I was with, there's 80 other freshman students in the program, and then of us 80, we were kind of in groups of 4 of us freshman students along with 2 upperclassmen leaders. And so you get really close to your crew of 6 people. And then how it works is kind of throughout the day, you go to various locations in the Durham area and do community service. So like food banks and then like restoring nature. And then in the evenings, we would do like fun social activities. So like bowling and movies and then just like game nights, fun stuff like that. And then there's a really fun thing that the pre-orientation programs do called interviews, where like of those 6 people each night, every person kind of tells their life story and you get to know each other in like a really fun way and like just get really close to a group of people in a week. And that's a super great way to kind of have your community like already before you kind of step into the massive Duke and know some people, but you also totally don't have to do any pre-orientation program. So there's P-Build, which I did, P-Wild, where you get to go to the forest, P-Waves, where you get to go to the beach, and all sorts of other programs. Definitely check out the pre-orientation and student engagement website to learn more about those. But you definitely don't have to do those like a very small subset of people do. Like I said, there were only 80 people in my program. And all students have, so during orientation week, which all students have before classes start, there's a program called the First Year Advisory Council, which I was, or FAC. So I was a FAC this year, where I had a group of 10 students where they were all in one dorm, and you just kind of like lead them through various O-week activities where you're kind of introduced to all the resources at campus, both for academics and wellness, and then just kind of like having like conversations. Like I saw someone asked about the Common Experience summer reading book. That conversation takes place with your FAC during that week, and then that's kind of just your person to lean on for any questions like about scheduling, about like social life, about just literally like where are buildings on campus. Like that was me. I was like, hey, can you like walk me to the LSRC? Because that's scary. There's a lot of acronyms. So I remember that. And then I love doing that so much, being the FAC, that I just applied to be on the FAC board, which is kind of the group of like 12 to 15 students who oversee that process. And it's a really great experience. And I really enjoy like helping students acclimate to Duke kind of that first week. And then, yeah, that kind of FAC experience doesn't end after the first week. Like even like during book bagging, when you're registering for second semester classes in October, like I texted my FAC group, like, hey guys, like if you have any questions about next semester classes, please reach out to me. And then just like in general, if you ever have any questions, reach out to me. And no one did that time, but it's fine. So there's plenty of resources to get involved. And just, yeah, like it's really great to kind of have that one person to lean on and just really help you get used to Duke and just kind of the experience.
Yeah. All right, Bobby, do you see any questions?
Yeah, somebody asked how you can explore different career interests at Duke, especially if you're undecided. And that's something that I definitely I've gone through like a good 3 or 4 different majors that I was interested in my freshman year. But the good thing is that at Duke, you don't declare your major until the end of your sophomore year. So you have a good 3-4 semesters to figure out what you want to do. And another great thing is just the fact that we do have a very interdisciplinary curriculum. So I think Evan mentioned there's different requirements that you have to fulfill. So you really can just get a class of each different topic that you're interested in. I kind of decided what I wanted to do by taking a bunch of different intro classes. So intro to psychology, or intro to advanced, this is my major, it's anthropology, it's bones and stuff, which I really find very interesting. But yeah, you can explore absolutely anything. I've taken philosophy classes. I've taken classes in Latinx studies. You can take absolutely anything and see where that leads you. And that led me down where I wanted to go. And I actually ended up, I have my anthropology and chemistry, which are STEM-based, but I also have my Spanish minor because I just find I really wanted to study that additionally. So you really do have the opportunity to mix different types of things that you're interested in into what you're going to end up studying. And you have the chance to change your mind plenty of times before it's definite. Even after it's definite, you can talk to somebody. And my advisors have been awesome because they really helped me plan out which classes will fit where. And so it's been really helpful to just explore different interests. So it's pretty easy to be undecided and figure out what you want to do as you go.
All right, and so next question, there are a lot of questions here about student culture and sort of that sense of competition versus collaboration. So for me, I can definitely say, just from anecdotal experiences too, that Duke is most definitely a collaborative community. I think it's something that sort of helps from, I feel like talking about a lot, but just the sense that setting us apart from other super high tier academic institutions, we have something that brings us together and makes us all cheer for sort of sports together, and that also sort of translate into us just cheering for each other when we're in classes and stuff like that. A example that always stands out to me is just from my freshman year. There's a little whiteboard area under Marketplace with rooms where you can go and just write all over the walls. And I was down there with some of my friends. I had my naked juice that I got from Trinity Cafe right there. I was working on my essay. And I remember seeing one person just go up to the board. She was in Econ 101. She's my friend now and also a tour guide. She started working on one problem up there. And then I see someone else in the room suddenly go like, hey, I'm also working on that problem set right now. Let's try it together. I look down to continue writing my essay. I look up again and there's like 10 students just working on Econ 101 together, all trying to figure out this problem. Some people are tutoring others in the parts that they didn't get. And that's something that was one of my first things that really shocked me about Duke. And now I've just become desensitized to it because it's such a normal occurrence. Duke students, we're all proud to be here and we all support one another in being here together.
Asked if students can have jobs while working or while studying, or be part-time, or what kind of jobs are offered. I've worked pretty much since the beginning of my Duke career. I only worked for one semester my freshman year, but since then I've had a job every semester. There's a number of different ways you can get involved. It might be through work study, or it might just be a job that you get independently. My job at the lab that I do research in is actually a paid job, so that's a really great way to kind of incorporate my interests and the need for money. But you can really easily get involved. We have something called Duke List, which lists out different jobs that are available to students. I worked at the hospital my freshman year, but I have friends who have worked at the libraries. So you can really get involved anywhere that you might be interested in general, or you just might have find that it's more convenient for you. So there's definitely a lot of students that work at the same time that they are students, and people are really there to help you, so you can manage both.
Someone asked a question about if they're a history major, can they also conduct research on biology? And then are there research programs that combine humanities and natural sciences? So there definitely are. So just kind of answer the first question, you definitely still can, whether that's you reach out to the biology professor directly, or there's a really central database called Muser, where it's basically just kind of like Craigslist, where faculty members post here's research opportunity, here are kind of requirements for students and time frame, whatever we're looking for in students. And then there's kind of specified rounds where students just log on, and then you can kind of submit little applications to each of those, read about each of the projects that would interest you. And that's a really great way to get connected to research. I know a lot of friends who were connected to research through Muser that way. And then to kind of answer your second question about research programs that combine humanities and natural sciences. So the Fast Connections project teams, which once again students kind of apply to, and they usually take project teams which are led by faculty members across tons of departments, which usually kind of the application process starts in January and February, and some occur over the summer. And typically that's and then project teams are formed in really interdisciplinary, just basically just any field of research, and pretty much anyone can apply to any of them, any project team that interests you. And then that's a bit more commitment. It's kind of like a class, but you get really close to the students in your BAS connection, because usually there's 4 to 6 students on each project team. And I meant to actually answer this question as typing, but I was going to send the link to BAS Connections at Duke. So definitely look that up if that's something you're interested in.
All right. And then so next question, why do you think you got in, and what made you excited about Duke the most? So I actually had a pretty cool experience in getting to meet the admissions officer who accepted me. She was really sweet. I got a handwritten note in my acceptance package at first, and then when I said that I was going to Blue Devil Days, that is our admitted student days, when I was there at Durham on Duke's campus, I got a call from the admissions officer, and she said, hey, Jessie, I know you're in Durham right now. I think it'll be really cool to meet. I'd be super excited to have a coffee or something. I'm wearing a sunflower yellow dress with a little straw hat, so look for me here. And it was really cool. I got to sit down with her. She talked about the different parts of, she was excited about how I really threw myself into the different activities that I was engaged in. She quoted parts from my essay and saying like, oh, this reminded me of when I was with my girlfriends at Duke and we would just go on wonky adventures. She was like, oh, a sense of je ne sais quoi. And it was really cool seeing that and knowing that she really cared about learning more about me as a person, as an applicant. And what got me accepted, what got Fabi accepted, Evan accepted, won't necessarily translate to you. But just know that from that base experience, they really do mean it when they say that it's a holistic process and when they're looking at you as a person. So don't freak out too much about that. And seeing how excited she was and accepting me, seeing how random Duke students would come up to me and tell me their why Dukes when they saw my prospective student lanyard, that was what made me excited about joining Duke. And that's something that I can also use to transfer over towards another question, which is what's something that you wish you knew before coming to Duke? And that's a problem that I personally struggled with, and I know that a lot of my friends did, of just feeling like an imposter syndrome of when I first got to Duke and I heard all these amazing things that other people did. I was kind of like, oh, did they accept the wrong Jasmine Wynn? Am I like, oh, I don't belong here? But I have to remember, think back to that experience and remembering that while all the other students are also special, you also got accepted, so you're special in your own right. We all have our own things, and just pouring yourself into those areas of passion and those things that make you special is what carves your own Duke experience.
If no one else has one, another question that I tried to type answer to, but I accidentally hit answer live because I'm so great at Zoom Q&A. Someone asked if there's a business program at Duke, and we don't have an undergraduate business major, but we do have the Fuqua School of Business for graduate students, and I know there are plenty of students on the pre-business track and there's like plenty of pre-business societies, so that is one thing that's kind of unique about Duke is with our liberal arts education that we don't have a dedicated undergraduate school of business or even a major, but there's still plenty of people on that track and plenty of student organizations like DSP and Scale and Coin and other pre-business organizations to check out.
Somebody asked about pre-med. We do have, it's not exactly a pre-med major, obviously, but it's a track. So you are paired with a pre-health advisor that'll help you decide what kind of healthcare you're interested in, what you need to get there, what kind of classes you need to take before you can apply to graduate schools. So I think somebody asked if we felt supported in finding different health opportunities like shadowing or volunteering. And I can honestly say yes, there's a lot of ways to reach out to different professors that might help, but there's also our our HPA office, which I'm blanking on what it stands for, but it is health professions. I think it might be health professions advising. They have just so many opportunities, and they'll send long lists through email of different volunteering and shadowing experiences that you can do. Same goes for a lot of other departments. They'll make a point of making you aware of what opportunities there are, or you can just reach out to your advisor or your pre-career advisor, and they'll let you know what kind of opportunities you can do. So I've definitely really felt supported as a pre-health student, but I know that other people that are doing things like pre-law and everything have access also to advisors that can help them find different opportunities.
Okay, and then so another question. Oh, so this one is a little more pertinent to the times. How has your experience at Duke been affected by COVID-19, and what is the university doing to balance safety and normality? So me and Fabi are juniors, so in this first semester, only freshmen and sophomores were allowed to return to campus, so we've been chilling out back on the West Coast in California. But we have seen that Duke has actually been highlighted as one of the top performing universities in terms of our response to COVID-19. I saw a TikTok that was like March Madness for just universities being canceled. UNC, our rival, was canceled, but we were not. And that's from, we've just been practicing really robust contact tracing. Every day students have to check in. Evan, were you actually at Duke, if you could talk about that?
Perfect transition. I was just going to jump right in. So I'm a sophomore, so I was living on Duke's campus this fall in the dorms. And so I remember kind of the news article came out last week talking a lot about what Duke did right, and I endorse everything. So we had all single rooms this year, where typically And then, yeah, so we had all single rooms and students really spread out throughout campus, as well as a really strict social distancing and mask wearing protocols in place. And there was just, so many, like normally dorm common rooms would have occupancies of like 2 people. And I was really impressed with just how well the student body did. Like there's no one had to be reminded to wear a mask. Like nobody like had to be reminded to not do that. Like in fact, like if you were sitting outside wearing your masks, there was like the C team, the compliance team, they called it, like the people who would kind of just make sure people complied, would literally go and give you like a gift card for a free smoothie, like if you were like following the rules. And that was really fun. I actually never got one. That was my goal this semester, but so many of my friends did. And so that's really a fun way to do that. And then we didn't have any in-person events for kind of the first few weeks of the semester as students were arriving on campus and kind of that entry testing was happening. So like I said, I'm involved with DUU, our programming board. So we took everything virtual, like movie screenings and like trivia and all of that stuff. That all kind of continued virtually and students had the opportunity to do that. Then as the semester went on and we continued to have very, very minimal cases due to really strict twice-a-week surveillance testing for students on campus as well as in the area, we started to have more kind of limited outdoor events, all of which required attendance tracking and pre-registration so that way contact tracing would be super easy, as well as, of course, very liberal hand sanitizer and just like social distancing protocols. Like that was kind of a meme with my friends, was like I was like a ranking of all of the different hand sanitizers on campus like through this year. BC is the worst. Sorry, but get hand sanitizer from somewhere else. And yeah, so it was just a really great experience to, even though we were on campus and all of my classes were virtual except for organic chemistry lab, which they kind of reduced to make, like based on kind of the current situation, how that was going to work out. But it was a really, really great experience. They took all of the precautions. I'm looking forward to them taking all the precautions again this next semester with, of course, more juniors and seniors living on campus. And yeah, I think just like the numbers kind of really speak for themselves and how we were really able to keep it super low even when the rest of the country and other colleges were experiencing that. That to me, that's kind of the Duke difference. Just when I said that like nobody had to be reminded to like wear masks or social distance, just because we know that we're all playing our part in this community and being able to be on campus is a really big privilege. And we really just, it requires that responsibility and we all bought in.
Okay, so we are at 9:15. Fabi, did you want to answer one more question about the traditions?
Yeah, I was going to say I thought that was the perfect way to kind of wrap it up. Somebody asked, what are some of your favorite traditions at Duke? I'll say mine, I really like the fact that we do the bench burning if we win the UNC game. I'm not that involved with basketball. I have some friends that do tend for the months leading up to it, but I got to experience that this year and be front row to us burning some of the benches around campus to celebrate our win, which was really, really cool.
All right, so that does bring us to the end of our tour. We dropped our emails into the chat, so feel free to reach out to any of us about Sir Duke in general, our specific Duke experiences. Our cheesy tour guide saying is that my Duke will be different from your Duke, so each of us have our own little things that we love and that we've done. So feel free to talk to any of us, and best of luck with everything moving forward, and happy holidays.